This is Automobile History Highlights. Now, today we're going to talk about the Owen Magnetic, the Baker Electric, and the Woods Dual Power. Now I'll tell you about Owen Magnetic first. It was first seen at the auto show in New York in 1915. It was a car produced by R.M. Owen Company, which was bought by Baker Electric, reorganized as the Owen Magnetic Car Company. Okay, simple enough. Jay Leno has one.
You know, it's interesting. I've got a car over here called the Owens Magnetic, which is a 1916 version of a hybrid. It's a gas engine driving an electric motor.
I didn't know hybrids had been around this long.
Westinghouse invented this in the late 1800s.
Amazing.
Not very many left because they were $9,000 when they came out in 1916. It's about $250,000 today. I mean, like, brand new. Went to the dealer and bought it. Very expensive. Not very many people got it. But what it had was 6-cylinder petrol gas engine. Not English, I just like using words like that. That was coupled to an electric transmission. It was called the Ince electric transmission, designed by Justus, Justusb Ince. That's his name. And it had a magnet on the flywheel, spun in armature, and you know, it's pretty complicated how it worked. You could increase the magnetic field on it, and when you increase the magnetic field, it increased the gear ratio. You know, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And you could have a ever-slipping gear or ever-slipping clutch, and then go slowly up a hill. You just stop it on a hill and just hold it there, no brakes, no nothing. Now stay there, and that was it. Now, the reason this looks and seems pretty stupid is because this is now part of my rant of why Jay Leno doesn't know anything about the Owen Magnetic. But after that, it gets back into the video. Okay. But he says that was about the time Baker Electric quit. That's not true. Owen Magnetic was owned by Baker Electric when it went through the, about 1925. And I mean, most of the other stuff is fine. But there's one thing he says in his little video on Jay Leno's Garage, that there's two motors that went to the back wheel. Each back wheel was coupled to a motor, and that the transmission created the power to go to the back motors. It was like you had the transmission up here spinning as a generator, making electricity, and then it went down the drive shaft into these motors. That's not true. Videos, Jay Leno's Garage, Magnetic Part 1. He walks over to the dang car, opens the hood, and says, "Look, this is my Owens Magnetic." And it clearly says on the engine, written in plain white letters across the engine, Owen, no S, Magnetic. And that got me thinking, well, if he can't even get the name right, is anything else right about it? And then he continued to say that Westinghouse, now I guess that's George Westinghouse, the man who started Westinghouse Incorporated. He said he was the inventor of the drivetrain, which was called the Ince electric transmission. So I'll look that up, couldn't find anything. If you do find anything about that, email it to me, or just email it to me. Go to my blog, hydrocarbonados.blogspot.com. Email it to me. But what I found was that Justus B. Ince, that's why the transmission's named after him, was the one that invented it. And anyway, there was no motors. All it was, there was a flexible drive shaft and that engine and that transmission. That's all it was. And the way it would do, you would it was an electric motor too. When you were in like first gear, electric motor was driving the drive shaft. But as you went up into the different gears, you would move that out, and it would just run on the magnetic field, and it would spin the armature, and it would just turn the back wheels. That's kind of how it worked. It wasn't really, it's not a hybrid either. Well, series hybrid, you have a gasoline engine driving a generator which drives the back wheels. But it's not like, you have gasoline engine that drives the electric motor that charges the batteries that runs the wheels. No, but it's close. Yeah, the Baker Electric. Now the one that I'm going to talk about is one like the Leno.
My wife's favorite car. It's a 1909 Baker Electric. Fully electric lights, fully electric engine. Goes 110 miles on a charge. As you can see, electric cars haven't really changed a whole lot range-wise.
It's a kind of cool car. Pretty cool. More aimed toward women. Not all of them were. Several companies called, Ford Electric, several other electric car companies were not aimed toward women. But this one was. And
the thing that killed the electric car was, since women liked them so much, they designed them for women. As you can see, it looks.
He has originally had Thomas Edison style batteries, nickel iron wet cell batteries. And he calls these alkaline batteries.
Here's an original Thomas Edison battery. Thomas Edison invented these batteries, these alkaline batteries for this car. This was going to revolutionize the electric car. And you wash them out and you fill them with alkaline. You can use them over and over again. In fact, these are still good.
Well, I was really confused about this. I didn't know. If they're wet cell, I always thought, like acid or something like that. But I got to looking, and the patents do say that you do have an alkaline electrolyte. So he's right on that. But he should say something else, because you hear alkaline, you think, okay, well, like a little AA alkaline battery, that's dry cell. Then get y'all confused. So he wasn't really wrong on that. I thought he was, but he's not. So that's basically all I had to say about the Baker. Now, the Woods dual power. Now this is a cool car. Now this is more like what you would think a hybrid would be. You can actually, it ran on the INTS electric transmission too. Not a lot of things say that, but Dyke's Automobile Encyclopedia kind of stored it. It says it's an electric transmission, or it's an electric generator / motor together in one. And that's what the INTS electric transmission was. But this one, you can actually run the circuitries, but different. You could run the motor on it, the gas engine, and it would run it, and you could drive it. And what it had was, on the steering wheel, you had one handle on one side for electric control, and the other handle on the other for gas control. You can move the throttle down on the gas completely off, and turn the throttle up on the, well, not throttle, but the power up on the battery, and you could just turn the engine completely off and just run it off the battery. And that's a hybrid. So the most interesting Woods was the dual power of 1917. This had a 12 horsepower 4-cylinder Continental petrol engine as an auxiliary to the electric motor. Maximum speed was 20 miles per hour with the ladder, electric, and 435 for both engines. You can run it separately or together. That's a hybrid. Didn't get so well. It was flop. People thought they were crazy. Electric and gas. Quick one. Electric ain't good. No. And that concludes this video. One last thing. The Woods dual power was not the first hybrid car. It was 1917, but one was actually made in, let's see, I won't talk about this over the microphone because I looked at it later. It's called the Leno Porsche and Ferdinand Porsche, Ferdinand Porsche, I always forget that, made or came up with a system. It's called the Radnab Motors principle, in which an electric motor was fitted to each of the front wheels, dispensing with transmission systems. And they also had the mixed-tay system, whereby energy for the electric motors was produced by a generator driven by a petrol engine. But I mean, it worked real good. Still didn't do. People didn't like it still. And that was before the wood steel power. That was in Germany. Wood steel power was in America. That's the only difference. And just so you're wondering, that's not my hair. It goes up and looks all stupid. It's actually made Briggs and Stratton. My favorites.